For 14 years, I've been in school, taking notes and exams, writing papers, filling out worksheets, giving speeches, and stressing over projects. Some days I'm excited to learn something new and expand my horizons, and other days I dread the thought of doing anything more than eating. This choice of deciding whether to put effort into my education is a privilege I've always taken for granted, and until recently, I haven't even acknowledged the fact that it is a privilege. I attended the YMCA for 2 years for preschool while receiving basic lessons for fundamental development. And then I went to St. Michael the Archangel School in Findlay, Ohio for kindergarten through 8th grade, a private school where I learned the required state curriculum on top of religion classes. After graduating 8th grade, I attended another private school, St. Wendolyn Catholic School in Fostoria, Ohio, a K-12 school that I attended from 9th to 12th grade. After receiving my high school diploma, along with about 30 college credits, I chose to attend Bluffton University, where I'm now giving this speech. I grew up privileged with the resources, wealth, and opportunities to receive a high-quality education. Not once during my years of education did anyone ever tell me I wasn't allowed to be there. Not once was my life threatened for trying to learn. Not once was I afraid that I wasn't going to be able to continue my education. Not once was it considered unnecessary for me to attend school because of my gender. For many young girls and women in other countries, they are not given the privileges or the opportunities to further their education, even if that's what they desire to do. The prohibition of female education in foreign nations not only inhibits the efforts of peace throughout the world, but promotes violence in the name of peace. Now, I'm not the best person to come up here and talk about how girls don't have education because, like I said, I've been blessed with the privileges of an education. So I'm going to tell you a story of someone who hasn't been so lucky. I'm going to share the story of Malala Yousafzai and how her desire to be educated has affected the people's view on female education and how she has addressed these issues, especially in her home country of Pakistan, in hope that her actions may inspire others to become aware of the issues women who desire education in other countries often face. Now, who exactly is Malala Yousafzai? Malala was born on July 12, 1997, which, to put into perspective, is 11 days younger than my roommate. She was born in Mingora, a town in the Swat Valley of the Northwestern Frontier Province, or the NWFP, of Pakistan. According to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organizations, or UNESCO, the female literacy rate in Pakistan is 26%. However, in the NWFP, it is between 3 and 8% because the education of girls is strictly prohibited on the basis of religious grounds. Out of 163,000 primary schools in Pakistan, 40,000 schools cater to girls, only 8,000 of which are in the NWFP. As stated by the European Parliamentary Research Service in an article about Malala in November of 2013, Pakistan is the country with the second highest number of children out of school, 2/3 of whom are girls, which converts to approximately 3 million children. In rural areas such as the Swat, it's expected that 50% of girls will be enrolled in primary school, and only 24% of whom will continue to secondary school. Some reasons that affect the education in Pakistan, identified by the researchers from the Pakistani population, include access and long distance to school with the dangers of sexual violence, cultural constraints, early marriage and or pregnancy, and a lack of water and sanitation in schools. The World Inequality Database in Education, or WIDE, stated that without a step change by the government to give these children and young people the education they need, including a second chance for those who have missed out, they'll be denied equal opportunities in work and life forever. It's even stated by Goher Fatima, author of Female Education as a Determinant of Economic Growth, the Case Study of Pakistan, in the Contemporary Issues in Education Research, November 2011, that discrimination in education can actually hinder economic and social development in countries, because studies have found that the rate of return from women's education is actually higher than the rate of return of male education. Despite all of these things, Malala was able to have the opportunity to be educated because her father, Ziauddin, was both a teacher and a female education advocate. He not only allowed Malala to further her education, but he encouraged it. In 2004, the Taliban entered the Swat Valley and began influencing the area. However, according to Malala, the terrorism didn't start until 2007. This terrorism included not only mass murders, the prohibition of girls' education, and the bombing of over 400 schools, but also threats and executions to anyone who spoke out against the Taliban. This, however, did not prevent Ziauddin or Malayla from continuing to speak out against the hindrance of female education. Ziauddin said in an interview that appears in the documentary, He Named Me Malayla, "If you keep silent, then you lose the right to exist, the right to live." To Malayla and her father, the idea of staying silent for something they were passionate about was worse than the idea of death. For several years, Malayla wrote an anonymous diary for the BBC, but that wasn't enough for her. She needed her voice to be heard, so she began speaking out in public, which quickly gained her threats from the Taliban to be silent. So what exactly has she achieved? Well, on October 9th, 2012, the Taliban stopped the school bus that Malayla and 20 other girls were riding and shot her in the head, along with injuring 2 other girls and a teacher seated beside Malayla. She was transported to a hospital in Birmingham, the United Kingdom, that specialized in military injuries. After being in a coma for over a week, she underwent intensive therapy and multiple surgeries. She lost hearing in her left ear and experienced paralysis on the left side of her face. If you watch the documentary, she has a metal plate in place of her skull, a cochlear implant to try to regain some of her hearing, and she can only smile with the right side of her face because she has no movement except for her eye on the left. She was released from the hospital in January 2013. Her story quickly spread, influencing the world. Some of the awards she's received have been the United Nations Prize in the field of human rights, Pakistan's first National Youth Peace Prize, the Ambassador of Conscience Award, and the Sakharov Award. In 2013, Malayla was also nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. However, the prize went to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. It wasn't until 2014 that Malayla Yousafzai became the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize at 16 years old, as she shared the award with Kailash Satyarthi for their struggle against the suppression of children and young people and for the right of all children to education. With the $1.1 million that she received as part of her prize, Malayla was able to fund a secondary school for the girls in Pakistan. Malayla and her father are also creators, along with the help from Angelina Jolie, of the Malayla Fund, which hopes to enable girls to be able to receive 12 years of education so that they can reach their full potential and be change makers in their communities. So how can we benefit from these experiences? Because I stand up here and I feel like she's accomplished more in her 18 years than I'm ever going to accomplish. Well, Malayla's words have reached around the world as she has spoken on national television on the stages of The Daily Show and The Ellen DeGeneres Show. She's met with presidents and government officials from around the world to talk about current events and address impactful political issues. She's made appearances and talked on the floor of the United Nations. Her story inspires girls and students around the world who struggle to find an education. In her 18 years of being alive, she's managed to impact hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives, because of her determination to gain the right and opportunity of a proper education for girls around the world. Malayla is not only an advocate of female education, but an advocate of gaining things through peace. On an interview with Jon Stewart on The Daily Show, Malayla said, "You must fight others, but through peace and dialogue and education." Female education in other countries is often highly limited because of religious practice and beliefs that women do not have a need for higher education. However, advocates such as Malayla Yousafzai and her father Ziauddin have worked tirelessly for years to gain the rights and opportunities to girls to have formal education. Because of her education, beliefs, and that education is power and a road towards peace, and her tenacity to both keep it for herself and gain it for others, Malayla has made huge accomplishments in the advocacy of formal female education in the name of peace. Malayla's story has impacted female education by bringing awareness to the fact that it is an issue in peace and equality when girls are not able to receive proper education. She makes it very clear the importance that should be placed on equal education in order to better the world. The prohibition of female education in foreign nations not only inhibits the efforts of peace through the world, but promotes violence in the name of peace. Now, to make a difference, I'm not saying you need to receive the Nobel Peace Prize or get shot in the head. Some people are called to help start movements, and others are called to continue them. Making a difference is as simple as helping raise awareness by talking about the situation that exists and not pretending like it's not there. So next time you have an assignment you don't want to do, or you have to sit through a class you can't stand, instead of complaining, try appreciating the fact that the class is available to you. Appreciate the fact that you have this opportunity for higher education, because there are people who are literally willing to die for what we already have. Thank you.